this weekend?
What did I get up to this weekend? So this past weekend I was actually doing a lot of gardening.
Yeah?
We picked up a tree and some blueberry bushes.
Nice. High bush blueberry bushes?
No, just low.
Okay.
And we actually looked to, we got them planted in our backyard, close to an apple tree, and put up another juniper type of a tree. So yeah, just had some work done. Like we just got our driveway repaved.
Yeah.
After years of waiting for it to be like.
Oh, you finally got it done.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's been like years. It's just been like a rock pile, and so finally just got it done, and so I was happy to have that done. But that was my weekend because so we just planted those, and it was hot. It was so hot this weekend.
Very, very humid and muggy. Yeah.
So lots of fun.
Yeah. I committed to some plans with my friends. I was very on the edge about doing that, but I'm glad that I did. It was my end of one of my friend's vacations, and she hadn't done much because her son was sick with a cold throughout the beginning of the week, so she didn't want to take him anywhere. Anyway, she was super happy that a friend and I were able to come down, so I got to visit with some friends that I haven't seen in a while. It's pretty fun, and I also did some yard work, and I had mowed the grass before. There was like huge mound. So I raked into one pile, didn't clean it up right away. Then when I went to pick up the piles, it was like all brown and yellow grass underneath. But if I throw some like seed down, do you think more grass would grow?
Oh yeah.
Or will it just grow on its own?
Grass is very resilient.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you left it, it would probably grow back. But if you put some seed down, it'll go faster.
It'll go faster.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. So we're going to be talking about perception.
Yes, perception.
Perception is the clarity of insight, being observant of what is beneath the surface and looking for a deeper meaning. Perception seems like a pretty deep topic to me.
So,
like, I feel like it's going to be one that's hard to talk about almost.
It touches on so many things. Like when it comes to perception, everybody has their own perception of things.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And the problem is that because of that, think of it almost like a lens, right?
Yeah.
And everybody has their own lens and they prefer to see through it. You know, you ever heard the expression like rose-colored glasses, right?
No.
Oh, they look at everything with rose-colored glasses, meaning like they think everything is happy and cheery and that nothing could go wrong. It's an expression
kind of like, isn't it like is it Maroon 5 has a song, I know you like to thank your don't stank. Lean a little closer. You know that roses really smell like poo, ooh, ooh. Kind of like that.
Okay. Kind of like that. Yeah, kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, the truth is that each one of us has our own perception.
Yeah.
But being perceptive is another thing, right? So it's the ability to be able to, like you said, be able to observe things and be able to take them in
clarity
and have clarity about it. Yeah, because so often we just go about, everyday life and not really noticing things, and we're just too busy and we don't pick up those things that are happening around us, and that's a lack of perceptiveness.
Okay.
Right? But if we really have almost like, real, I guess, just paying attention, like to the little things that are happening in our lives.
Being in the moment.
Yeah, being in the moment.
Yeah.
Then you get to pick up on things that could make real life-changing differences. Because the truth is that there's all these little opportunities. Like, have you ever heard of, like, how we talk about how like the universe is talking to you?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Here's the problem.
And I listen to that.
Yeah, but the truth is that a lot of people just aren't listening.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The universe could be talking to you constantly, but if you're not listening, it's not doing anything for you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So with perceptiveness, that allows us to be like, wait a minute, like, you're listening. Oftentimes, like, truthfully, when it comes to my own perceptiveness, I notice that when it comes to listening to something in a podcast or in YouTube, or I might be having a conversation with somebody, I suddenly would just like something they said just trigger something, and I just really picked up on it.
Yeah.
And that's what sets me off to start having like all kinds of other thought processes with things that change the way that I think, but also change some of the decisions I want to make in terms of like usually business decisions.
Do you think you're in the moment? So say somebody's having that conversation with you and then whatever they said triggered something. So then your brain starts thinking about that. So you're not technically in the moment with them explaining it to you anymore because you're in your own moment.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
oftentimes I would, yeah, that's true. I would pick it up, and then as they're going on,
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, I really have to pay attention to like maybe go back and listen to what that was.
Yeah.
If I was just watching something, or if I'm talking to somebody, I would. It's rare that it actually happens in conversation, but this is the reason why, like perceptiveness, to have this perceptiveness is really important because a lot of people who are in business or who are really successful, the reason why they're able to come up with new ways to do things is because they go out and they interact with a lot of different people all the time,
Yeah.
right? And this allows them to be able to, with their perceptiveness, be inspired to be able to find new ways to do things and
Right.
be able to be more efficient or be able to solve problems they weren't able to solve before. And if you look at history, all throughout history,
Yeah.
it's the same thing that happens. It's like they were like what I was describing. They met a certain person and had a certain conversation, and they didn't realize that like Starbucks, for example.
Right.
The reason why Starbucks started is because the founder, name escapes me right now, the founder literally was traveling through Italy and he saw the experience people were having with these, like drinking these things that were called espressos, right? And in the US, that didn't exist. And he was just like, we have to bring this to the States, right? And that's where it started.
Okay.
All because he was traveling in Italy and he saw this thing called an espresso and he saw the experience they were having and they were just like, man, we got to bring this in. And because he had the perceptiveness to be like, you know, why don't we have this? And like, because he caught on to it, he paid attention to it.
Americans need more energy.
Americans need to have we need more espressos.
Yeah.
Then that's what led to that. But there's lots of stories throughout history of these types of things that were happening. And it's all because of perceptiveness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think there's like an occupation that perceptiveness is most beneficial? Like, is there any certain occupation, or do you think all jobs require a certain level of perceptiveness?
I'd probably say that, well, think about maybe like a psychologist or a therapist, really.
Yeah.
Right? Like they have to
need to
really
open to every.
Yeah, they have to be
everything.
open and pay attention to everything that they're saying and doing, and even the little things. Like it may not even be what they're saying, but just the way that they're
And the
acting
fact
to things.
they have to be open not to just to you or you or you. They have to be open to all of their clients, not just like one individual. Like you might think like, yeah, oh my gosh, they're so open with me, but they have to be that open with everyone.
Yep.
Not just you or
Yep.
you. Like
Yep.
that would be hard.
It's difficult, yeah.
I don't know how they don't get like clients confused either, because I've been to therapy before and like she just remembers everything. I know she takes her notes and stuff, but like it just blows my mind how much they remember from what you've already told them.
And it's all because they're practicing perceptiveness,
Yeah,
right? They're
yeah.
being very perceptive and they're taking it in. So that's what makes the difference in terms of not only them being able to do what they do in terms of therapy,
Right.
but their ability to be able to connect so well with you,
Yeah.
right? So imagine what that would be like if you did that with everybody that you have a relationship with, if you put that much attention into the things they were saying,
Yeah.
right? And being able to remember it, you would create much stronger bonds in terms of the types of relationships you had.
I agree with that. I have a pretty good friend group, and I think it's all because we're very close with each other. We've always listened to each other, been there for each other. So I definitely agree with that.
In terms of perceptiveness, I think that probably the most common time that you need to have real perceptiveness
Yeah.
is when you're buying a used car.
When you're buying a used car.
Oh yeah. Oh
What?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Why?
Because the truth is that what happens when you go to buy a used car? You're going first off, you don't know what you're getting, right?
Right.
You're trusting the sales guy who is like gonna say anything he can to try to sell you that car.
Yeah.
So you have to be really on high level to be able to like pick up if he's actually being honest with you or if it's all BS, you know? So I'm just thinking back to the times when I purchased used cars, and and I've had my fair share of them over the years.
Yeah.
But
I purchased one in October. We'll get into that.
Yeah, so we're not being young and naive, of course, and not practicing perceptiveness.
Yeah.
I bought jalopies. Like I remember specifically,
Jalopies.
like I remember one of the first cars I had was a Hyundai Pony. I don't even think you guys even know what that is. It's so old. But it was like, the girl was like, oh yeah, it's like, it's great. And like, there's no problems with it, and sold it to me. And it was just nonstop problems. Everything on it was falling apart. And it was because I just didn't know better. And I was using my perceptiveness to be able to pick it up. As I got older, I started to get much more guarded when it came to dealing with used car salesmen.
Yep.
And then, of course, I just eventually stopped buying used cars and buying new cars. But then even then,
Yeah.
you have to be very careful in terms of...
Oh yeah, they're probably just as salesy as the used car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They tell you, oh, you gotta get this too. And then they'll tell you all kinds of things about the car, like it's super fantastic. But truth is that, yeah.
I don't think I've ever been perceptive buying a car in my life.
Never.
So I bought a brand new one in 2013, and yeah, like my friend's mom had the same one. Anyways, I guess I could have asked for winter tires. I could have asked for like the winter floor mats, like, you know, like the thick rubber ones, so like salt and stuff doesn't, they like have grooves in them. Anyways, could have asked for all this, but I didn't. I'm just like walk in there, I'm just like, I want this car. And they're like, okay, here you go. Like, they didn't try to, like, even if they had tried to upsell it to me, I probably would have even taken it then. Like, I had no perception on, I could probably get this. You know what, I could probably get this too. They really want to sell me this car.
Exactly.
But I didn't. I was just like, here you go. And now that car got smashed recently, back in October of 2020, and I bought a used car. Again, I needed a car, like ASAP. My rental only lasted so long, so I needed a car ASAP, and my dad was looking for me, I was looking. I could have cared less what I got, so I wanted something safe to drive. But anyways, I got this car that I have now, and yeah, now I'm kind of like running into like a lot of issues because all I did was take it for like a drive. I should have taken it for a better drive, like on the highway. Because actually, as soon as we pulled out of there and got on the highway and started driving, I heard this like noise, and the whole like, what's that plate thing underneath the car? Like the skid plate or like the heat plate or something.
Yeah.
Heat shield.
Heat shield.
It's like covers the whole bottom of the car. Look behind me. My dad's driving behind me. Look behind me. This huge shield is flying off the car, and I'm like, Dad had to swerve out of the way. He didn't even know it came off my car until we stopped at the gas station in Fall River, and I was like, did you see that thing come flying off? He's like, that was off your car? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I just had no perception on, maybe I just needed a car, and I knew it had a safety for another year or half a year. It was ready to go. It was ready to drive, but maybe I should have like looked a little bit longer, had better perception on what to look for, I guess, when buying a used car.
Right.
And the salespeople didn't even seem very salesy. They're just like, oh, here you go. Like, I think they just knew, like, we got this girl already. She wants this car.
She's already hooked.
Yeah, we don't even have to do anything. I did get, I think it was listed for a certain amount, and I asked for, because then it was plus taxes, but I asked it for that certain amount with taxes in, and I did get it for that. So I got it for a little bit cheaper than what they had it listed for, but they only just got the car in a week ago, so that was on their lot and off their lot within a week.
Yeah.
So that's probably the type of business that they want. But yeah, I definitely am going to be more perceptive when I buy my next car.
There you have it.
Yeah.
And everybody ends up buying a used car at some point in their lives, and really not being able to have the perceptiveness to know when that person is really trying to sell you something that is not as good as what they're talking about is really going to save you like a ton of grief.
Yes.
in terms of like what you're going to be able to use. I think perceptiveness is also very important when it comes to jobs.
Yeah.
You know, like I think a lot of people tend to be they try to be more perceptive, I think, when they're going for job interviews, to be able to not just try to impress for the interview, but also to see what kind of company they are getting into, right?
Yeah.
They'll look around and they'll want to talk.
Around.
They'll ask around and they'll talk, and then of course they'll go online and they'll try to check out reviews and things like that.
Look at the website.
But that's not really, but those types of things, like when it comes to like trying to find information online, isn't the same perceptiveness as what you get from having an interaction with people. Right? Because it's actually interactions with people that are going to really give you the real sense of what to expect.
Right.
Right? Because you can't sense, when somebody is being genuine with you on a website, right? You can only really pick that up in a face-to-face conversation.
Which that's actually kind of gone out the window lately too with COVID, like face-to-face interviews. A lot of them have like been over Zoom or phone calls. Like we know ourselves, we've done a few.
Yep.
So how do you think that affects perceptiveness? Do you think it's equivalent to having an in-person one?
Well, I think that's why so much of it is trying to be going into video, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to be able to see people's faces.
Yeah.
They want to be able to feel like they're actually talking to someone face to face. The thing is that I've also noticed that when it comes to using these technologies, it's fairly common that you'll start a conference all faces, and then at some point you just kind of click, and suddenly the video's gone, and now you're just in voice, and now they can't see you, right? Meanwhile, others might be seen, but you can't, like, you can see them, but they can't see you.
Okay.
And this kind of thing is happening. This happens a lot in a lot of video streaming.
Yeah.
I think that, as far as it's probably good practice if you want to increase your perceptiveness, just as a general good rule, I think that it's good to try to keep your video on all the time.
I think so,
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, if you're going for a job interview, clearly you're going to, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you're usually in a position where you're on the other side of it, then sometimes you might be tempted to turn it off, and maybe just so that you feel more relaxed, I guess. But truthfully, if you want to be able to give the other person as much as they can about who you are,
Yeah.
keep it on.
And who you want, like, I want to know who they are.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can't imagine turning off a video during an interview. I can't picture that.
Well, a person going for an interview isn't going to do that themselves, but
Right.
the people who are interviewing,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
they could clearly be doing that, right? And
Yeah,
it doesn't give the person who's being interviewed a chance to know
What-
who they're connecting with very well.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So again, kind of that reduces their ability to have perceptiveness about you,
or the job even.
or the job, or
yeah.
well, basically
the
who
company.
they're working with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and that's the kind of trust that has to be fostered from the very start, and it's very important. And especially if you want to have them come on board, then they need to be able to know who you are, right? So, so yeah, I've seen these kind of things happen, and especially when it comes to having to deal with doing video calls all the time now in this world.
Yeah.
But I think that
That
it's
would
just
really
a matter
cloud the perception.
it would cloud your perception. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to keep at it, like, just even though sometimes you may feel tempted to want to like turn it off because I don't know, you feel like you don't like how you look in the camera or something like that. The truth is the other person doesn't care. They just want to be able to
If you
see
want
your
that
face
person
and
as an
connect.
employee,
Yeah.
you keep your camera on.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I mentioned my car. Like, I was in a situation that situation definitely clouded my perception because I knew I needed a car right then. Like, I have kids, they are in sports, I have a job to get to, I got to do
Yeah.
this. Like, I knew
Yeah.
the car was safe, so I just went and bought it. But I didn't look into it enough. Do you think there's any other situations that could cloud perception?
I think that's a good example of like we're pressed because of the things we need, and so it gives us a heightened sense of just kind of ignoring that perceptiveness
Yeah.
in order to just get it done.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
And same thing like what we were just talking about in terms of like job interviews and things like that. We will sometimes we're so eager to impress because we really need that job,
Yeah.
or we really want that job,
Yeah.
that we're not even paying attention to who we're talking to,
Right.
or we're just so going on, we're not seeing some warning signs about the company we might be actually talking to, right?
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that happen fairly frequently, but on a larger scale, we have perception, like the things that really cloud our perception tends to be things like, I guess you could say, preconceived notions, right?
What?
So,
Explain.
so what's often called discrimination.
Okay.
Okay, so when we discriminate against, like if we have a discriminating view of something, meaning that we already have preconceived
Yep.
ideas,
Yep.
then we will see things through those preconceived ideas when it's not really the way it is, right? So
Right.
you can
This
look
is
at
deep.
yeah. So I mean, this touches on all kinds of things. When people immediately, when you start to talk about politics, what happens? You
People
immediately
have their ways set.
yeah, they think a liberal is this, a Republican is that, or a conservative is this, and a green is that, and an NDP is that, and all these different parties, right? So they immediately start to have preconceived notions of who they're talking to. This is the beginnings of judging. And so with that, they no longer have a perception of having a discussion with a person.
Yep.
They now have a perception of talking to something which represents maybe an enemy to them, or they immediately think that, okay, so I already know because this person is a liberal or something that they must be X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So I don't even I don't agree with that. So I'm not even going to treat them like a person.
Right.
And that is where communication breaks down. If you have perceptiveness though, and you, instead of using those preconceived notions you have, label people and instead just really listen to what they're saying, or really read, I guess, because it's in social media sometimes, to what they're saying, and forget what their whatever their political leanings might be. You can actually start to have real meaningful conversations that build. The problem though is that as much as your intentions are good, the other person is probably going to come right back at you with the same preconceived notions when they see where you're standing, right? So then it's like, well, you tried, but you're not getting anywhere, and you get frustrated, and then you go back to your old ways, right? So it's really, perceptiveness
That'd
is something.
discouraging.
And it's discouraging,
you wouldn't
right?
want to do it anymore.
Exactly.
Why?
Yeah, and that's just politics.
What's the point?
Then you get, and then you get into like other major things like race, right? You know, when it comes to racism, and of course the preconceived notions that come with that. When it comes to class, right? Rich versus poor. What happens there?
That used to be a thing. Smart versus stupid.
Yeah, and so like, especially rich versus poor, like if you go on social media, there's actually, you know what? Especially what's happening now, there's a housing crisis happening in the world, right?
Is.
And it's not just happening here in our little province, it's happening all over the world, right? And if you look at the kinds of comments that are being made by people who are in the midst of that housing crisis, they say the worst things about landlords, like the worst. And the truth is that landlords aren't really rich. Like a lot of times they've been able to get far enough to be able to get that house so that they could try to be able to create some kind of a additional income for themselves. They just they're just a little bit further up, but they are demonized in ways that are amazing. And some, I'm not saying that not everybody deserves that, but a lot, I think that a lot of them don't, you know? And so because of that though, because of the perception, right? Because they have the perception of, you know, I'm getting the short end here, and so it's because of, and then the judgments start, right? And then they have the preconceived notions, and so what happens is that everybody, what's sad about that is that because they have that preconception, and then they go out to actually get other houses, what do you think their attitude is going to be about landlords?
Not good.
Horrible, right? And what do you think how do you think that landlord perceives
can perceive that attitude and the way they're talking to them?
Exactly, right? And so what happens? They end up they actually create a self-fulfilling prophecy of like all landlords are horrible, because as soon as you start talking to a landlord in a way that makes them feel like, wow, you think I'm a terrible person, don't you? Well, I just don't want to talk to you then. Of course, you know, they're not going to want to even rent their property.
Get that feeling. Like, I feel like I can read people really well. So if I was a landlord and somebody was coming in talking to me, I'd be like, you hate me. Like, I'd be able to tell. I'd be able to feel the vibes coming from them. Exactly.
And so this happens all the time. And it's just, it's so easy to take care of if people are just more perceptive. And they would stop and allow themselves to be able to communicate in a way that uses their perception. So the problem is these preconceived notions, like the preception of things. And if they can be perceptive, right, and actually see things the way they are, so many problems would be solved. And of course, this allows you to be able to grow and be able to do things that other people can't, because look at the masses who are so stuck in their preconceived notions. Meanwhile, if you go to that landlord, for example, and you talk to him like a person, he'll love you, right? And then what do you think he's going to do? He's like, you know what? Yeah, I see this thing needs fixing. So before you move in, I want to get it fixed up. Whereas the other person who was all like snarly with them, it's like, well, here's the price. And by the way, it's another $100 now. You know, becomes what they get, right?
They're getting 200 resumes to go to that place, and they're just like, next.
Yeah, exactly.
Next.
Right.
So here's the moral of the story. Don't hate your landlord. Hate the government. Totally kidding.
So that's another story.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes to perceptions, right? Because the truth is that like
That's
really
where my perception goes, is more not towards the landlord.
yeah, it's not the landlord's problem. It's because well, if you look at
Economy, or I don't know
you
what
can
to
look-
blame it on.
it comes back to like to me it comes back to systems.
Yes, systems,
right?
yeah.
And so when you have a system, you can have good people in a bad system.
Yep.
And it just keeps going and those people are stuck.
Yeah.
Right? But the system does the damage.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't see that,
No,
right?
You
and
have
so
your perceived.
yeah, you're that cog in the wheel, and
Yeah.
so you're a part of that. So that makes you bad. Is
Yeah.
our perceived notion.
Yeah.
So if I ever make comments about anything of a system that is bad, I'm saying bad things about that system.
Not the people.
I will have yeah. So if the government is doing something which is clearly just not good, I'm just
Yeah.
like the system's not working.
Yeah.
Right. If the healthcare system is doing something that's just not good, the system isn't working.
Don't blame the doctors and nurses that are in there trying to help you.
Right.
But that's what people do.
That's what. Yeah.
They're like, oh, this nurse Karen.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So
that is, yeah, okay.
yeah, so if we just were able to have more perceptiveness and we were able to like pay attention and actually talk to people like people,
Yeah.
it would totally like that
world would be
completely
better.
can change not just the world. Imagine what it does to your world.
Yeah.
Right? Like you suddenly become somebody who everybody wants to talk to.
Yeah.
You go in for that job interview and they're like, wow, you really stood out from all the rest of the people because even when you're talking to an interviewer, they feel the perceptions, right? It's
Yeah.
like if the person they're talking to might be of a certain race or a certain class, then they might think that they'll start to give those vibes. And you know what? Myself as a person who's an employer, right? I've had interviews where I could sense like just from certain types of wordings that the person I'm interviewing said.
Yeah.
I could pick up that, you know what, that guy actually has like some really bad attitudes about some things,
Yeah.
you know, and it's because I was listening so carefully and I
Yeah.
was being perceptive.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like preconceived notions, I drop them all.
Drop them, yeah.
Right? I drop
You've
them
got
all
to.
and yeah, listen so closely. And it's interesting because people, this is a very interesting quote. And I picked this up from Debbie Lawrence.
Okay.
Okay. And she's someone I learned a lot from over the years. You can check out Debbie Lawrence online if you want to. She's a success coach.
Okay.
But she said, whenever someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Shows you, not tells you.
Well, no, when someone shows you who they are,
Yeah.
believe them. And because the truth is that we show ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we have trouble processing it and believing it because we have our preconceived notions of, oh no, they're really a good person actually, or no, they're actually, you know, like we're not being perceptive enough to be able to believe what we're actually seeing.
I kind of took that a different way. So like, and it kind of, what you just said too. So like, I could tell you, this is how I am, this is how I am, this is how I am.
Yeah.
And so now you have this predeceived of how I am.
Right.
But then I turn out to be, oh my gosh, like that, she doesn't do that, she doesn't do that. So you got to more believe, so what was the quote again?
Whenever someone shows you who they are, believe them.
So you got to believe what I show you, not what I tell you.
Right.
Because what I tell you, I could be making your predeceived, what did you call them?
Preconceived notions.
Preconceived
Yeah.
notions, yeah. And I make you have those by telling you who I am.
Right.
But really, you need to believe in what I show you who
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, because some people, I mean, they either it's a way for them to protect themselves, or maybe it's a way for them to feel like they need to do these things to make you like them or something.
Yeah.
But they'll say things because they think that that's going to make you like them more.
But
right?
I want to see it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's like, how many times? Okay, even you and me know this from experience.
Yeah.
How many times have we met somebody who we thought, wow, they're really great in the interview,
Yeah.
and there was just this one little thing.
Yeah.
This one little thing we're kind of like, you know, there was that, you know,
Yeah.
when someone shows you who are, believe them. We didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then what happens? We get to know them more. Turns out, whoops, you
Yeah.
know, we should have paid attention to that, but
Yeah.
we didn't,
Yeah.
right? Instead, we were looking at all our preconceived requirements to try to fill that position and
And this has
everything.
also happened the opposite way too. So I know we've hired somebody in the past, and I was my already preconceived, what are they? Preconceived notions had me judging them. So after the interview, I didn't know if I should follow, like, it's my gut. I'm like, part of me's like, should I? No, it's not my gut, it's my judgment. And then I'm like, that's what's holding me back from hiring them. But then we ended up hiring them, and they were like on point, probably one of the best employees. So like, it can work both ways.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And it's a matter of just employing perceptiveness over your preconceived notions. Yeah. So there's prejudice, and then there's perceptiveness.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of interviews, you actually have one starting right now. So we are ending this show.
Okay. So thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you at the next one.
Stay tuned for our next week when we launch 2 more podcasts on purposefulness.
Purposefulness.
Purplefulness.
We're all purple here at Enter the Bunker.
Thanks, guys. So much fun chatting with you. See you later.
Have a great day.
Bye.